How many upsets happened this week? Did we really get a good idea of how good some teams are? More on that coming up. All right, welcome to this episode of the Fourth Strike Show. I'm your host, John Barons.
I'm Joshua Perkins.
Alrighty.
Play ball!
A little bit of an exciting week. It seems like we had a handful of midweek upsets. We could start with the University of New Orleans beating Southern Miss to continue that little tailspin.
UNO, I remember we went to the LSU scrimmage game against UNO, and UNO, they didn't look bad. We went to take a look at how LSU was doing, preseason. But UNO actually kind of, raised some eyebrows. They kind of turned some heads in that game.
Now, Virginia's not ranked, but still William and Mary beating Virginia 9-3 on Tuesday.
Virginia, that's a former national champion team right there.
Yeah, they get a good coach. Typically they're in the postseason. They weren't last year, but still, it's Virginia. I expect not losses to William and Mary out of the Cavaliers.
Unexpected. But the Tribe came in and conquered. And actually 9-3, so it actually really wasn't close.
No, that's a pretty big spread in baseball.
So, how about let's talk about your favorite out-of-state team, your favorite underdog team, Coastal Carolina, as they lost to Charleston Wednesday 5-8.
Not a big surprise. Maybe the 5-8 score, but not a big surprise. Charleston, I assume it's the University of Charleston, they're actually a pretty scrappy team. So, not the biggest upset, but at the same time, it's Coastal Carolina. So, I'm kind of 50-50 on that opinion. Now, Austin Peay beating number one Vanderbilt 7-6 in 10 innings. That's a surprise.
Austin Peay, the Governors. Governors, Commodores, nice little matchup,
huh? So Florida also took yet another midweek stumble.
There's the upset bug from college football. You know how UCF like to do upsets. Jump to baseball.
University of Central Florida beat them 12-9. A pretty high-scoring game. All right, Texas A&M loses to Incarnate Word 6-5.
Right.
Southland Conference, watch out. Incarnate Word is coming.
So, Texas A&M had a pretty strong weekend. We'll get into that in a little bit. And they finally broke into the rankings, but still, losing to Incarnate Word.
That's bad.
University of Texas San Antonio defeats Texas 10-7.
Which is why it surprised me how Texas did this past weekend, but we're going to get into more on that later in the show.
VCU defeating number 6 North Carolina 11-8. That's again a little bit surprised. VCU, a tournament team most years, but I don't know, 11-8. That seems pretty high for that level of competition.
Yeah, I've been kind of noticing a lot of East Coast wars this the midweek.
Yeah. LIU Brooklyn defeats Georgia 1-0.
So that sounds like pitching was on point during that whole game.
Nothing but pitching that game. The score came late. Xavier topping Louisville 5-4 in 10 innings. Okay, so Louisville did struggle earlier in the year. They dropped 2 to UConn to open the season. So I don't know. I'm looking to see a little bit more from Louisville. They could be a disappointment. We'll see. Season's still early, and there's still a lot of teams that have yet to tap into their full potential. Air Force beating East Carolina 3-2.
I've been noticing some scrappy performances out of these military academies. Earlier this season, West Point took LSU to the limit during LSU's opening series to begin the season. So watch out for one of these military academy teams later on in the year.
Well, I know. Well, the military academies have always been just kind of scrappy, really.
When you look at with Army football, they took Oklahoma all the way into overtime. I mean, you look at the Citadel, they were tied with Alabama at halftime.
Yeah,
until,
football season, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get into some of the weekend games, and we had the Shiner Classic in I forget, but it was in Texas. It involved Texas, I want to say Texas State, Baylor, Rice, Houston, and A&M, as well as TCU. So a pretty big tournament. A regular season tournament with no implications on it.
But I mean,
But still.
it's a good way for a lot of these Texas teams to go at it with each other.
TCU loses twice over the weekend. Once to A&M's 1-0, and then to Rice 2-12 after beating Houston 10-6. Now the loss to Rice is what is more surprising than A&M loss, even though they lost to Incarnate Word during a week, which is like, okay, whatever. No, the loss to Rice is significant because Rice had been really, really bad to begin with. And then they come in and give TCU, who had made it to 4 straight World Series, a 10-point loss. I mean, that game was 10-run rolled.
So it ended early, basically.
Yeah, it ended after 7 innings.
And TCU is a strong powerhouse team, and just to lose Rice like that, it's...
So, I guess one of the questions is Rice just not feeling it for the beginning? Because they came into this Shiner Classic, like, again, having lost pretty significantly to some teams. I mean, UC Irvine just destroyed them in 3 games. And then they come in and beat Texas.
But I think the trend we're going to be seeing a lot out of all these teams, during the season, is that up and down trend, the up and down patterns, where you see teams they perform very well during a series, and then that next series or against that next game, they just completely wet the bed. I mean, look at Rice. I mean, they wet the bed against UC Irvine, getting destroyed, and then they go in against TCU, one of the nation's powerhouses, and blow them out. And so I think we're going to be seeing a lot of up-down performances from a lot of these baseball teams, which is going to raise a lot of suspicion on who's going to have the edge going into the NCAA tournament and who's going to have an edge getting to Omaha this season.
I will say this, it does seem like the gap is significantly closing between the small schools and the top schools. Especially, yes, it's early season, so these midweek non-conference losses are not that big of a window into things, but at the same time, these small teams are knocking off the big teams early on.
And like these midweek games, I mean, yeah, it's really now a really big deal, these midweek games against non-conference teams, but you got to look at it. The committee takes into consideration at the end of the season when you have those teams that's barely scraping the surface, or you have those teams when it comes to seeding, the resume plays a big role. And when you're losing to teams like LIU, Brooklyn, or UTSA or UCF, the committee takes that into consideration. Now, unless you go and win 50 games this season, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But for these smaller teams like that, that's big for their confidence. I mean, that can be kind of like the jump start pad for them to really break off this season.
Yeah, and also at the same time you have to look at who it is they're playing. Like, obviously a loss to VCU is not going to be nearly as bad as, say, a loss to Incarnate Word. But I'm still baffled by that.
I am too, considering the fact Incarnate Word is in the Southland Conference, and if you had put in Texas A&M against Northwestern State, it might be a different story. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Demons, I still love y'all.
So Georgia Southern was able to take 1 game out of 3 against in-state. Well, I guess let's just say in-state rival Georgia University, even though the levels of competition are just
staggering.
Georgia Southern has proven to be a little bit of a scrappy team this year. They were able to win Sunday. I want to say Sunday 10-7. So that was impressive. Houston's struggling a little bit. Lost to Texas State 9-4. That was following their loss to TCU. So the Cougars not looking too good to start the season, and they have been a team to make a lot of noise in the past.
I mean, but like I said on previous shows, it's still early in this, relatively early in the season, so we're going to see a lot of rust out of these teams, and we're going to teams start breaking off from each other as the season goes along. Probably around mid-season, around later this month, early April, we're going to be seeing a lot of distance being made between these teams.
I will tell you, a team that did come in this weekend and make some real noise was Mississippi State, taking 2 out of 3 against number 3rd ranked Texas Tech.
And because of that, Texas Tech dropped from number 3 all the way to number 14.
Yeah.
So Mississippi State can be a formidable conference opponent in the SEC.
Yeah. That should be a team to watch, especially after coming and defeating a team like Texas Tech, which made it to the World Series last year, and they have a very strong team again this year. And this was after Mississippi State's debacle last season with the dismissal of their head coach Andy I forget how to pronounce his name, but
I'm not even trying to pronounce it.
I forget. He was the assistant coach for LSU for a few years. Cavanoso, something like that. Forget. Anyway, yeah, the Bulldogs look like they're off to a very, very good start. Even though that series win over Southern Miss is starting to look a little less impressive, they still came in and took care of business against Texas Tech at Texas Tech.
Do on the road, that's even bigger.
So Stanford and one of the other three top 25 matchups took care of business for the most part against Cal State Fulton, taking 2 from them. The Titans drop out of the top 25 as a result.
And Stanford jumped. They went from number 11 to number 6. And so Stanford, I mean, hopefully this can help with their confidence going forward in the season. But Stanford, they've always had a relatively good baseball team. And I'm kind of excited to see what they do this season.
Well, Stanford, I always enjoy watching Stanford. They were one of the old blue bloods of college baseball. And haven't been to the College World Series in a while. Let's say at least 10 years. So, a little more from the Cardinals would be fantastico.
They would.
Anyway, like I said, Rice, 2 wins in the Shiner Classic, a 12-2 over TCU, and then a 6-3 over Baylor.
I mean, if Rice can keep up this type of performance, Rice can probably go back to their former glories. I mean, Rice used to go at it with teams in the NCAA tournament all the time. But Rice they struggled lately, but it seems like they're trying to get back to their former potential.
Yeah. Well, Rice, we all know, like we said in past, they were the national champs, and I want to say in 2005. So they're a program that could put it all together. It's a bit surprising seeing them struggle like this early. However, the wins over TCU and Baylor definitely stand out and potentially point to improvements there. So
now, don't get me wrong, we can give Rice baseball this. At least they're not struggling like the Rice football team did this season.
Oh gosh, no. Rice was terrible this past season.
Their only win in the football season was a last-second field goal win over Prairie View.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Okay, so Texas made probably the biggest statement of the weekend, sweeping LSU Tigers, 3-0. 8-1 first game, 8-4, and then a come-from-behind walk-off win, 7-6 on Sunday. So not looking too good for LSU there. However, it's kind of their own fault.
Pitching, how many batters did they walk?
They walked 22 batters the first 2 games.
And how many did they leave on base?
I want to say about 24 over the course of the series.
For a team like LSU, they have a relatively young team. They got a few veterans on their team. But if you're trying to get into Omaha, you cannot do those type of, especially against teams like Texas. And when you got to go against teams like, say, if you got, even in conference play, you got strong competitors like Vanderbilt, Georgia, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. Can't do that in conference play.
No.
And so Coach Maneri's going to have to get – what else you need to work on? Of course, they got to work on their pitching. They got to be able to work on as far as getting the ball to the spot where it needs to go. They got to be able to work on as far as their consistent hitting. They got the hitters for it. You got guys like Zach Watson. You got guys like Beloso and Antoine Duplantis. I mean, they got the pieces to become a national title team. But I just feel there's a lot of rust on them, and I feel that this is a team that they need a lot of work.
Yeah. So, Baylor surprisingly dropped 2 this weekend in the China Classic with their 1 win coming against Texas State. So, not too impressive for the Bears there. Sacramento State was actually able to take one from 4th-ranked UCLA 2-1 on Sunday, and they pushed the Bruins to the limit this weekend. I want to say also Friday they barely lost 2-1. So
Sacramento State could be a team to watch.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
But what about Grand Canyon taking 2 from USC?
I did. We'll get to that in a bit. Okay. I want to finish the more noteworthy ones. Even though USC is a big name, they're not. They've kind of have a drop off lately in college baseball. So, but I was thinking, Cal State Northridge takes 1 from Michigan. And let's even though Michigan is ranked right now, that's pretty impressive to me because the Big Ten typically does not produce a lot of really powerhouse baseball teams.
I mean, I haven't seen a Big Ten team really make a splash as far as college baseball is concerned. Now, college football and college basketball, yes, but in baseball, we don't really see a lot of Big Ten teams. You mainly see teams like the SEC or the Big 12 or the ACC, not the Big Ten. Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, for final notes for noteworthy games, Minnesota, a regional host last year, and Southern Mississippi, another team that has been a regional host and typically makes the tournament almost annually, continue to struggle. I mean, they have officially stumbled into losing records by multiple games. So, yeah.
Like I said, a lot of rust on a lot of these teams. There's just a lot of Cowboys that got to come off their game plans. Because between seasons, it's a huge layoff.
It is. However, good programs don't typically struggle this poorly out of the gate. There are teams that, of course, do catch fire later in the season, but Minnesota coming off of a regional host and actually get to the super regionals last year to coming out with a losing record out the gate, and then Southern Mississippi actually got off to a good start, and then after their opening win over Mississippi State last weekend, it just seems like they've taken this dive, losing, I want to say 2-5 over the last 7 games. Yeah, no, they're on a pretty bit of a tailspin right now.
They gotta get something under control, right? Quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yeah. So that's a bit of a surprise, a little bit unexpected. And again, like we said, this season is still fairly early, so there is obviously time to turn around. We're still, I want to say, 3-4 weeks away from getting into conference play, so these teams have time to turn it around per se. But the best time to turn around is now,
because the season does go by pretty quick.
Yeah, that is always going to be the case. The best time to turn things around is the current and present. We got a few teams that I like to talk about that are kind of on my teams to watch. They may not have winning seasons right now, but they have had some impressive wins, and we'll get into those after this. Okay, welcome back to the Fourth Strike Show. So you were saying earlier, Grand Canyon taking 2 from USC. That leaves them at 5-6, but they have taken 2 games from 2 out of 3 against USC. They have a win over Wichita State, and they have a win over TCU. So
this could be a team that they're building something out there at Grand Canyon University. I mean, we may not, we're kind of seeing the shades of them getting to the full cusp of their potential.
Yeah, well, see, okay, so Grand Canyon is a little bit different. These are the types of teams that you don't expect to get off to a fantastic start because of teams that they typically play.
And now that they're relatively new to the Division I scene.
Yeah, so I mean, they lost two games to TCU, but they won a game, and that was actually a pretty impressive win. If I remember correctly, it was something like 9-1. A 9-1 win. So this team actually has some real firepower behind it and a good staff. Once they get into conference play, I'm interested to see how they do there. Houston Baptist is one I said last year that I had my eyes on, and I still kind of do at this point, even though they ran into the buzzsaw that is Dallas Baptist.
And they've now lost 4 straight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's probably looking like that. Houston Baptist, they kind of started the season off sprinting, and now we're starting to see them kind of slow down. We're starting to see that fatigue taking effect on the Huskies.
Yeah. And I had said last week, I think the Dallas Baptist series would be a good marker to see just how good Houston Baptist really is. And, so, I mean, it wasn't like Dallas Baptist ran away with the series, but at the same time, it was safely in their control the entire time as well. So,
I mean, you look at Dallas Baptist, I mean, you're looking at a team that is competitive every single year, so...
Another one that is starting to catch my attention is Wright State. They're 4-4 right now, but they have single game wins over Ole Miss, Oklahoma State, and East Carolina. So that trio of wins right there is pretty impressive to me.
I mean, Wright State, I mean, that's not a team I've always looked at as far as baseball. I mean, Wright State's a kind of school that I barely kind of keep track of, but they probably about to raise some eyebrows this season.
You hear about them, but again, it's one of those things that typically you hear about them in, say, like basketball when they're like one of the lower seed underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be the only time I'll kind of look at Wright State is during March Madness.
Yeah. But, again, Ole Miss, a top 10 team. Oklahoma State was ranked at one point in East Carolina, and another top 25 team. You got wins over all three of those teams.
Now, how about, the team that we've been kind of keeping a magnifying glass on, Stetson, the Hatters?
They got off to a pretty sad start.
But now they won 3 in a row.
They won 3 in a row. So they got 3 games coming up against Sacred Heart, which, oddly, they finished the weekend playing against. I don't know. They played them Sunday, and then they have a midweek game. It's so weird scheduling.
Kind of weird. It's like the team that you don't want to play no more. Now you got to play them again.
So they have officially they have a 4-game series, quote.
Like, oh, I'm so glad we're done with this 3-game series against them, and we got to play them again.
So I don't know. They did very well last year. They went 48-15, got to the Super Regionals, actually hosted the regional, and look to overcome some team history this year. So, I don't know. I'm not going to give up on Stetson. They did lose a lot of their pitching depth last year, and they did lose their top 2, performers at the plate. So they had a little bit to overcome themselves, but. Like I said, this is a team that set the program record for strikeouts last year with 635, and that was their 3rd straight year setting the program record.
Well, I mean, it says they're kind of in the rebuilding process, but I mean, this is a kind of a good start, winning 3 in a row. So this could be a good start to what they're trying to rebuild out there. Yeah.
And then finally, UC Irvine. A team that has performed well in the past and has made a tournament a couple times, but you can't. They're not always there, but they're on a roll right now. 8-3 overall. They just ran through Rice, and then went 2-1 this past weekend. That loss came to LMU. I forget what it's what officially it is. But oh well. That entire stretch of UC schools always seem to be pretty scrappy, with the best one being UC Irvine. You also have, of course, UC Davis, UC Riverside, UC Bakersfield. You know, they're all just kind of hovering around 500 right now, but they all have like some pretty noteworthy wins.
I guess we can call this the reign of the UCs, the UC reign.
Those I gotta be honest, those California teams always have a potential to be real scrappy.
And we're gonna see one coming this Sunday, LSU and Cal.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see how scrappy the Golden Bears are this Sunday.
Well, the Golden Bears, I forget the player's name, but they do have the reigning Golden Spikes player on their team. So, not too bad.
We'll find out Sunday.
For those who aren't familiar with the Golden Spikes, that is the Heisman Trophy of baseball. As you remember, back in, I want to say 2003, Ricky Weeks won the Golden Spikes Award.
Let's just say I hope Pulmonary is ready this weekend. I hope everybody's ready.
Yeah. All right, so a new batch of rankings came out. Texas are new to the rankings. Tennessee breaks in at 12-0. They have 6 shutouts on the season.
This can be a team that can probably spring themselves forward as like a front runner for the SEC title. I mean, 6 shutouts in 12 games. Do you not? Well, first off, it's hard to pitch a shutout in the first place. That's hard in itself.
They allowed a total of 5 runs through their first 7 games.
So it looks like they have. You're probably looking at probably number 1 defense as far as college baseball is concerned. Like number 1 pitching.
Number 1 pitching, number 1 defense.
Number 1 fielding.
No, that would be defense, sir.
Well, fielding would be a more proper term for baseball.
Yeah. South Carolina makes their season debut in the top 25. We see another California team, NC State. So some of these typical guys that didn't make the cut to begin the season are starting to trickle their way in. Also, Texas A&M makes their season debut. Dropping out of the top 25 is Oklahoma State, Clemson, Cal State Fulton, and Illinois. The highest jump was Stanford from 11 to 6, Mississippi State 12 to 7, Texas after their sweep of LSU went from 22 all the way to number 12, with LSU falling from 2 to 13 and Texas Tech falling from 3 to 14. So that pretty much wraps up this week of college baseball. But I'm not going to end the program right there, even though I could. No, I want to talk a little bit about something that is just quite honestly ridiculous.
Okay.
And that is Bryce Harper and Manny Machado.
Manny Machado. Oh, man. Like, this just made me want to say, Kyler Murray, you are crazy passing up all that money for the Oakland Athletics. But we're not going to talk about Kyler Murray. That's NFL now. Let's talk about Bryce Harper and Manny Machado.
I mean, what are we in a race for? The first person to sign $1 billion contract?
I don't think somebody's going to sign $1 billion. That's never going to happen, especially in sports. Unless you're
they didn't think there would ever be a person to sign for $1 million. You got to remember, the first person to sign $1 million contract was Nolan Ryan in I want to say 93.
That's a big come up in salary cap space for a lot of these MLB teams. But, well, all right, so you look at Manny Machado going to the San Diego Padres for $300 million. If you look at San Diego Padres, they have been absolutely sad over the time. And we kind of saw shades of improvement last season. But with Manny Machado, I mean, he's one of the best fielders, one of the best hitters in the league. And so having Manny Machado give him that extra firepower, that extra star power that the Padres need in order to be successful. Same thing with the Phillies. We saw some improvement from the Phillies last season. Adding Bryce Harper, who was one of the best sluggers, in the league. And, in my opinion, probably he's one of the best outfielders.
Yeah, see, Bryce Harper is arguably one of the hardest players in the major leagues right now. But when you consider how hard he plays, that has a tendency to take a little bit of extra wear or tear on the physique. So, I mean, he signed I heard 10, I've heard 13 years.
12, I think I want to say it's like 12 years, $330 million.
Whether it's 10 or 13 or 12, it doesn't matter. That's a really long contract. And
I mean,
you cannot sit here and tell me that he's going to be worth that money in 5, 6, 7 years.
Which is true. I mean, that's why it baffles me about these long contracts. Now, say if he trains himself and he takes care of his body well to where he's able to perform in 10 to 12 years. That's possible to happen. I mean, you see a lot of these MLB players. You see some guys playing. Look at Bartolo Colon. He's like in his mid 40s and he's still playing. I don't know why he's still playing, but he is.
Yeah. Well,
and look at Bryce Harper. I mean, look at how the cloth that he was cut from. You look at how he's been playing since he was a teenager. He's 26 years old now, and it seems like he has not missed a beat yet. So say if he does, and I'm pretty sure the Phillies organization brought it up to him like, look, we signed you to a very long contract, and we expect you to be around for a long time. So you need to do whatever it takes in order to take care of your body, to make sure your body's well rested, and to make sure you're able to perform for us, from this point to 11, 12 years from now.
I just have to sit here and say, and I honestly think that the Phillies are going to be regretting this in 5 to 6 years.
I think the Phillies kind of did it out somewhat of a desperation because the Phillies, I mean, this used to be an MLB powerhouse. This was a team, I believe, that once won the World Series.
2008.
And this is when they had Ryan Howard, one of the top, pretty much at the time, probably the top slugger in the league. And I feel that it was kind of a desperation to return to their former glory. And look at these Philadelphia fans. And one of my friends brought it up to me. He was like, I mean, look at Bryce Harper. I mean, if he doesn't perform the way he's supposed to, the way he's expected, the organization's not going to run him out of town. The fans are probably going to run him out of town. I mean, Philadelphia, look at sports. Philadelphia has probably the most ruthless fan base in the nation. And if you don't perform to expectations, they will run you out of town. I mean, they did the same thing to J.D. Drew when he came into the league.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, I just feel like, I don't know. I almost feel like that pro sports in general is starting to become a competition as to who can get more ridiculously overpaid. You cannot tell me that baseball is worth $330 million for one player.
Not for one player. I mean, if you want to split it between 4 or 5 players, then it's a different story. But not just like one player. I mean, honestly, I felt that. I mean, I'm with you on the ridiculous, like how ridiculous the contract was. Honestly, if you want to sign Bryce Harper, I would have locked him down maybe 5 to 6 years for about what? I'll say $120 million and call it a day. I mean, because Bryce Harper is one of the best players in the league. And he is of high value and he is of high demand. So, I mean, it's a ridiculous contract. But, I mean, if I were to make like a decision on how to sign him, I wouldn't sign him that high of 12 years, $330 million.
No. So, here's my argument, or the perspective that I like to put it in. You're officially now getting paid more than anybody in society, and you're non-essential. Baseball goes away, society continues.
Nobody in baseball will ever be richer than Jeff Bezos from Amazon. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, well,
he had to give $70 million to his wife in a divorce settlement, and he's still one of the richest men in the United States of America.
But he's a business CEO.
But you saying that Bryce Harper is richer than anybody in society? Jeff Bezos is part of society.
I said most people in society.
Almost. Okay, gotcha.
I'm talking about you're now officially making more to play baseball than your first responders, your doctors, hell, your lawyers make less money than you.
And a lot of these guys, like doctors and first responders and lawyers,
they are military personnel,
and they're all essential to our society today. They are what keep our society going. They're basically the oil that keeps the society pumping. Baseball it's a pastime. It's it brings people together.
It's entertainment.
It's entertainment, but I mean, we don't need baseball to live. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay baseball. I mean, baseball is a really good sport. It's fun. but it's not an essential to our society.
Do you not think that at some point they're just going to start pricing the fans out? Because, who pays for these luxurious contracts? It's not the owners. They're not paying out of their personal pocketbooks. No, it's the fans. The fans have to pay these guys. And if you sign these players continuously trying to outbid the other team to a point where you get to a $300+ million contract, what do you have to do to make that money up? Boost prices.
Bring in more revenue, do things to bring more fans to the games, and
No, your $12 hot dogs are about to become $20 hot dogs.
Yep, you're gonna go to the stand and be like, oh, we can get some cheap food at the baseball game. You get a hot dog, some nachos, a drink, and some popcorn and a beer. Now you're looking at spending about $80, $100. I'm like, wait, $100? Wait, hang on, wait. I got this food and now it's $100. Wait. Oh, they signed that dude Bryce Harper to $330 million, so they about to bump the price on all of us.
Yeah. Don't forget your foam fingers.
Oh man, like this about to be worse than movie prices.
Concession stands, movie concession stands.
You get popcorn, some nachos, and icy, or a drink or whatever. Now you're looking at spending about $30, $40. Well, baseball was like, hey, we just signed Bryce Harper to 12 years, $330 million. Hold our beer, we could top that. All right, your hot dog, your popcorn, your pretzel, and your drink. That's a total of $150. Now pay up. Like, come on now. Come on, man.
No, but it seems like that's where we're headed.
Most likely, yeah. But, it's the monopoly. It's all nature of the beast. When it comes to a lot of these owners and GMs.
And I heard Bryce Harper talking about it. He's like saying something like, I think baseball is $11.5 billion industry, and it's time the players start getting some of that. It's like, well,
aren't y'all getting some of that already?
Yeah.
Bryce Harper, you shouldn't talk. You getting some of it. You got $330 million coming to you.
Yeah, I know. It's stupid.
I'm not about to sit here and pay you half my team. No, I'm not gonna do that.
And even then, still, you got to look at it as per franchise. Yeah, it's $11.5 billion total as an overall company, but per franchise, the Marlins aren't paying you. The Phillies are paying you. So whatever chunk out of that the Phillies make, that's where your paycheck is coming from. And again, I reiterate, it's the fans who pay the contracts. This money is not coming out of the owner's personal pocket.
For a while, growing up, I used to think that. The owners were they're pay them because the owners were so rich.
No. This is not money. This money does not come out of their bank accounts. This comes out of the Phillies organization. Yeah.
Wow.
So like I said, the players want their money, but at the same time, they got to decide how much longer can we screw the fans over by, hiking hot dog prices.
And I feel that's why the Philadelphia fan base is so ruthless, because we're basically paying you to perform. We're paying you to show us a good time, to hit home runs. We're paying you, for football, we're paying you to score touchdowns and make plays. Basketball, we're paying you to make shots and make dunks and excite us. If you don't do that, we're going to run you out of town because you're wasting our money.
Yeah.
And now I understand why the Philadelphia fan base is so ruthless to some of the athletes. They have a right to be, and not every fan base should kind of be like that. If I was a fan and I found out my hard-earned money was going towards these players that are getting paid more than me, and knowing that I'm, though I'm a regular person, I'm still part of an essential part of society. I'm gonna try and help run you out of town too. If I have to petition, I'll petition run you out of town too. I'm just saying. Wouldn't you do the same thing, John?
Yeah. Okay, so enough of all that. Early season, a lot of excitement for early season. No slow starts here. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Fourth Strike Show.
And also, for everyone who's listening to this, show this to Bryce Harper, Manny Machado. Like, look, yo, fellas, like, I got student loans. I got a lot of bills. You think you can help a brother out, please? I got bills to pay. Like, you think you can help me out? I mean, look, I'm a fan of both of y'all and everything, and like, we just speaking our mind on it. And I really hope y'all very successful and everything. This not me brown nosing, but at the same time, like, I'm just a small town kid looking to make it, and I'm just trying to get my bills paid and all that. It's just kind of hard. All right, we can end the show. All right, just playing.
Yeah, okay. I'm John Behrens.
I'm Joshua Perkins.
This has been a AI Sports Network production. Signing out. Love y'all. Not had a